Okay, hello everybody. At long last, I'm reviewing the Data Scientist track or certification from Datacamp. I've been asked for this for a long time, so finally, here it is. I have a pretty good feel for how they're doing it, what they're talking about, and I'm going to go through it one by one. Now, note that I have not taken this. I have not done every single piece of material. In fact, I haven't done most. I did actually end up doing one of the certifications, the Python quiz. I kind of just rushed through that to get a feel of how they were doing the certifications, and I have a pretty good feel for it. By the way, this is completely unsponsored. I'm doing this totally for free. So how should you prepare for the certification? Well, the Data Scientist with R or Data Scientist with Python career track, the SQL fundamentals skill track, and the data communications concepts course. Okay, so starting off with, I'm going to assume the Python one. Those of you that know me well probably know I would recommend the Python one, but of course you could do the R one as well, and it would be, fairly similar. It's just a different language. Okay, so starting off with the Data Scientist with Python track, this one right here. So basically this is 88 hours of Python, and it goes into, it starts off with the very basics of Python. It says master the basics of data analysis with Python. If you were to click on it, it really is just starting off with the absolute basics of Python. And throughout this, we work on getting more and more complicated and using its data analysis libraries. Okay, so we go through that. Intermediate Python, we do a project, data manipulation with pandas, another project. I'll just look at all the content here. More pandas, more projects, matplotlib. And this is where it gets really confusing to me because they say Python Data Science Toolbox, learn the art of writing your own functions and scoping and error handling. What the heck does that have to do with data science? I have no idea. Data Science Toolbox Part 2. Start learning about iterators and list comprehensions. What are you talking about? Like, this makes no sense. This has literally nothing to do with data science whatsoever. Will you be using these things? Yeah, absolutely. But anyone in Python and pretty much anyone in any language will start to be using, scoping and error handling. Like, it's just, it doesn't really make sense to me. All of the Seaborn stuff, absolutely. Data analysis, anything to do with that, I completely agree. Introduction to importing data in Python, it's really not that difficult, but if you go really complicated with it, it can be a little confusing. But I think I agree with that. Working with API data, a lot of courses will not go through that, which is actually quite nice. Cleaning data in Python, probably not everybody's funnest, most interesting task, but something you have to do for sure. Working with dates and times, that is really important, and I'm glad they go through that. A lot of people just kind of leave you to it and don't tell you that it's really irritating to work with dates and times of Python, so I'm glad they go through that. And there's a skill assessment there. So writing functions in Python, at least they're not claiming that this is anything to do with data science. They're just telling you that this is literally, writing good functions in Python. So I'm okay with that, as long as they actually don't claim it to be something that it's not. As long as they're honest about it, then I'm really happy about that. And that's important stuff. So we have data analysis, more pandas, statistical thinking. So build the foundation you need to think statistically and to speak the language of your data. Very happy that they go through that for you. It's very nice. And doing that in Python through parameter estimation and hypothesis testing, really fundamental stuff, very important though. And that is, it's really, really important. We do actually cover machine learning on this track. A lot of things, a lot of courses try to pretend that data science, you don't have to go through any of the machine learning stuff. They will make machine learning models with Scikit-Learn, so big plus for them there. Predicting credit card approvals through a project, very useful. Unsupervised learning, so clusters, transformers, visualize using Scikit-Learn and SciPy. Again, a lot of courses skip over the unsupervised stuff, so it's great they go through that. Machine learning with tree-based models. Okay, so those are the like random forests or gradient boosting models probably. And a nice case study over machine learning. Very nice. More on cluster analysis. So actually some of the more complicated clustering, which is quite nice. And a statement of accomplishment. So what do you get through this Data Scientist with Python? Quite a bit. You start off with absolutely no Python knowledge. They're going to make it nice and easy for you. Building up through NumPy, Pandas, all the fundamental libraries, the plotting stuff like Matplotlib and Seaborn. We actually get to Scikit-Learn machine learning models and go quite into depth into that. So, I think this is great actually. So onto the SQL fundamentals track, there's probably nothing I can really complain about here. They're going to teach, the common SQL stuff. Master the basics of querying tables and relational databases. It doesn't matter the SQL flavors. It really doesn't. But what they're going to do is in PostgreSQL. So that's a very common data science and really just all over the place SQL. Master the complex SQL queries in 4 hours. PostgreSQL summary stats and window functions, very important stuff, and data analysis in SQL skill assessment. There's really nothing I can complain about. So honestly, that's good enough. They don't go into the really complex stuff that's not relevant to data scientists, like all the other SQL that some programmers would do. They stick to the basics. They stick to what you're really going to need. Nice and quick, get a skill assessment in SQL. That should be enough. The data communications concepts, it's only 3 hours, so there's not really a point of talking about this too much. Talk about storytelling and communicating with data and written reports and oral presentations. It's nice to go through. They're going to make sure that as a certification, you're kind of not just a mindless monkey that can do some coding stuff. They do have a bit of that, which is, that's the style of this, is they kind of do just treat it as a bunch of things to memorize and go through and get a nice certification. But I think you'll learn a lot. And this course, it's a nice change up that a lot of them won't do. So I do appreciate that. Okay, so what do I think about this thing overall? Well, just the style of the coding, which we haven't really talked about, it is a little bit of, very slow, taking it really, really, really easy, sometimes easier than you want. But it really forces that you do understand these things and that you take it slow and learn them, instead of just, flipping through a book and you pretend that you read a book, or you pretend you followed a course by just kind of, fast forwarding or literally skipping over videos. They are going to make sure that you go through this and that you're at least familiar with all the concepts. And all the concepts, they're quite good, actually. I think they made a very nice selection of the different material in the order that they've chosen it. It's not going to be hard. You won't have to jump around between different areas. You can kind of just go through it and it will flow quite well. Again, what I think they could have done a little bit better is just be a little bit more honest when the stuff was just straight up for every programmer versus something for data science or for analysts. But again, with just changing the titles, it's not really a big deal and the content is great. It's nice and easy to follow and it's nice and well structured. In terms of the assessment that they make you do, they're a little bit irritating. The quizzes that they make you do are very strict, and it's what is this exact piece of code that you should insert here? It can be a little bit difficult to read, and it's not really what writing code is about. It's just kind of, you should be writing the code that you want to write and not writing the exact code that people are forcing or expecting you to write. Of course, you should adhere to particular styles, but they're very strict about no, this is the exact format and way that you should do this. I'm not sure if I completely agree, but it's very difficult on their side to make a nice Python quiz or a machine learning quiz without doing something kind of along those lines. So I do understand that. In terms of the certification itself, what kind of value this provides, I still don't think it's quite as nice as some of the Coursera stuff. But I think that it is a nice certification that is getting better. A lot of people are doing it, and I think that they are building up their, street cred, so to speak. I still would probably recommend getting some of the Coursera stuff that's really common, like the deep learning specialization after this. That's probably a nice place to go after this, is to get more into the math, because this is a very coding-based side, and you'll probably need to improve your math and just cognitive skills a little more after this. So I would definitely recommend the Andrew Ng machine learning and deep learning specializations after this. But for beginners, I think it's a great place to go. If you are really struggling with this stuff, then you can just go through and follow it step by step, and I think you'll learn a lot out of it. So, I'm not going to give a rating attached to this, and I'm also not really going to talk about the price of the certification. That is up to you. Make sure that you do get their limited time offers if you are going to pay for that. But I think it's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it. If you liked the video, please consider dropping a like on it. It does really help. If you are not subscribed to the channel, take a look at some of my videos, see if it's worth subscribing to and it's what you want out of there. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching.